Well, good evening, everyone. This is Mayor Stewart, and I'd like to call the regular meeting of the City Council to order and state that four of us are present. Councilmember Marks is at another city business. So will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And City Attorney, do we have any closed session report out?
The council did meet in closed session on one matter of conference with its labor negotiators regarding the city manager recruitment position, and there was no reportable action from that closed session.
Great, thank you so much. All right. So next, we have the fun part of the beginning of many city council meetings, which is proclamations. Today we have an Earth Day proclamation, a Sexual Assault Awareness Month proclamation, and a city manager, Derek Johnson, leaving us proclamation. So, all right, so first we'll start off with the Earth Day proclamation. I'll go ahead and read it here, and then I'll pass it over to Bob Hill, and he'll share a few words. Maybe not. Oh, there we go. Okay, thank you. So whereas the city acknowledges that 2023 was recorded as the hottest year on record, underscoring the urgency of addressing climate change and the potential tipping points that could have severe and irreversible impacts on the planet's ecosystems, weather patterns, biodiversity, and people. The city recognizes that proactive climate action not only mitigates environmental risks, but also contributes to community well-being. The transition to carbon neutrality by 2035 requires a whole of government and a whole of community approach, and the city remains steadfast in its commitment to achieving this goal. The city remains committed to achieving carbon neutral municipal operations by 2030, and the city of San Luis Obispo recognizes that a healthy environment is fundamental to the well-being of our community and its economic prosperity. The city acknowledges the urgent need to rapidly eliminate fossil fuel use. The city values the importance of open space conservation and natural resources protection, recognizing our role in enhancing the quality of life for residents, maintaining biodiversity, and preserving the unique character of our community. The city is committed to the principles of environmental justice, understanding that all residents, regardless of race, income, or socioeconomic status, have the right to a clean and healthy environment. The city values the contributions of local environmental advocates, educators, and organizations that work tirelessly to raise awareness and implement initiatives that benefit the environment. The city recognizes that Earth Day serves as a reminder to reflect on the importance of protecting our planet and encourages individuals to take meaningful steps toward environmental stewardship. Therefore, I, Erica A. Stewart, Mayor of the City of San Luis Obispo, on behalf of the entire City Council, hereby proclaims Earth Day as April 22nd, 2004, and encourages all community members to actively participate in Earth Day activities, events, and initiatives all month long. And I see Bob Hill, so I see Chris Reed, not Bob Hill. Oh, there he is. Okay, we're both going up. Thank you so much. Happy Earth Day.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Stewart and members of council. I'm Bob Hill, Sustainability and Natural Resources Official, as you know. As noted in the proclamation, to really truly protect and steward our natural environment is a whole of government approach. It starts with our city council and in your way of translating the values of our community. It starts with our city manager and city attorney and the way that they support us and provide direction and guidance, the department head team, and really all of the departments and all the city staff staff, and so many of our community partners and volunteers that help us to accomplish the goals that we want. I'm especially proud of our Office of Sustainability and Natural Resources. I have Chris and Lucia are here with us today. And we just really want to thank the City Council for your support and the community and for the resources that are entrusted in us to accomplish the work that we do. So now I will hand it over to Chris, who has some prepared remarks. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Chris Reed, Sustainability Manager, and I think Bob did a good job of honoring and thanking our community and council and staff today. And I just also wanted to honor all the environmental leaders in our communities past. We all spend a lot of time in this room, and I've been thinking a lot about the plaque right outside here that lists every council member that's ever served our city. I've been thinking a lot about how many nights, on a night just like tonight, over the last 50 plus years, community members have come here, council members have come here, have received presentations from staff, and councils made decisions to protect the environment, enhance our earth, and enhance our community, and how behind each and every one of those decisions, an untold amount of community members poured their hopes and dreams and spare moments into making sure those decisions were excellent. Here in SLO, we're really lucky to be surrounded by the splendors of earth. We have clean air, clean water, abundant wildlife. We could walk away from this room and land on a trail in a couple of minutes. And this is why companies want to relocate here. This is why we want to live our lives here and why people visit here. But we also know that a place like San Luis Obispo doesn't just happen. It takes constant work to protect our environment, to tend to it, to heal from it, to prosper from it, and to restore it. So on this Earth Day, let's celebrate the sun, the land, and all the living things therein. But let's also celebrate our community members that have worked so hard to protect what we get to enjoy now. And let's reflect on how the work we do today creates a world our children can thrive in. And that said, please visit, if a community member is watching this, please visit slocity.org/sustainableslo to learn about all the Earth Month events that are coming up. I think Mr. Johnson will have some more information on that in his presentation. But that website has any number of events, and we'll be out at Laguna Lake Park this Saturday for Earth Fest, so come say hi, and we'd love to chat with you. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much to you both, and I very much agree, Chris. When you think about all of the years, it's not just 1 year that we decided, let's do this. This has been just decades of people really wanting to protect the community and create a space we all enjoy. Well, next we'll do a Sexual Assault Awareness Month. It will be presented to Michael Boyer on behalf of Lumina Alliance, and here we go. Sexual Assault Awareness Month calls attention to the fact that sexual and intimate partner violence is widespread and impacts every person in San Luis Obispo County. The marginalization of certain groups in society, including undocumented individuals, transgender individuals, and those living with disabilities, increases their vulnerability to sexual violence. Although much progress has been made toward preventing and ending sexual violence, important work still remains to be done. Lumina Alliance continues to provide a safe environment to those affected by sexual violence with crisis intervention, counseling, education, and emergency-safe housing, with the help of dedicated volunteers and professionals. They provided services to 1,397 people in 2022 to 23, including answering 2,189 calls from the crisis line. Lumina Alliance provided evidence-based violence prevention education to 1,431 students in SLO County in 2022 to 23. Lumina Alliance encourages the community to recognize our collective power to create a culture that supports survivors and works to create a community where everyone can live free from violence. Lumina Alliance is celebrating its 45th anniversary of serving survivors of sexual and intimate partner violence in SLO County in 2024. And the City of San Luis Obispo strongly supports the efforts of Lumina Alliance, how every segment of our community can work together to better address sexual violence and how to help survivors connect with services. Now, therefore, I, Erica A. Stewart, Mayor of the City of San Luis Obispo, on behalf of the entire City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of April to be Sexual to be National Sexual Assault Awareness Month.
Just a few comments. Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is Michael Boyer, and I'm the Governance Chair of Lumina Alliance. Sexual Assault Awareness Month is an opportunity for us to reflect on the progress our community has made in support of survivors of sexual violence, while also acknowledging the work ahead of us. As you heard, we have answered many calls for help over the many years. We really emphasize now how prevalent sexual assault is in our community and our culture. As a survivor of sexual assault, I've served on the board for 7 years, and this is a great year because we're celebrating our 45th anniversary. The first rape crisis center in San Luis Obispo began in 1976. We've had that rape crisis line actively running since 1976. Many iterations of agencies have run that organization, but now Lumina Alliance does. Unfortunately, this year, our Victims of Crime Act funding is being cut by a little over 10%. So that's why we all had a great time this last weekend at Lumina Nights to really bring funding into that area of Lumina. And so that we can make sure that we don't lose hours in our 24-hour crisis line. The one thing I want to make sure of, if anybody is watching or listening, if you know of anybody that is experiencing sexual assault or domestic violence and needs help, they should call 805-545-8888. Our advocates are waiting for your call, and they will help you. In closing, we are so grateful for this proclamation and the ongoing support of this council and the entire San Luis Obispo community. Preventing and ending sexual violence is a lofty goal, but not an unachievable one. With the support of our local leaders and community members, we can work to build a community safe from all forms of sexual assault. On behalf of Lumina Alliance Board of Directors, donors, staff, volunteers, we thank all of you for taking action this month to create our vision of a safe, thriving, and equitable San Luis Obispo. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for sharing a little bit about your own story. I've been so pleased to see the nonprofits that continue to work with sexual assault awareness continue to collaborate and change and evolve in a way that different organizations have come together and used the resources together. I mean, just in 20 plus years, I've seen Lumina Alliance merge together from at least 5 different organizations. And that means 5 different boards, 5 different executive directors and staff, 5 different volunteers from 5 different organizations come together and really make an even bigger impact. And it's really something exciting. And in my past role at Cal Poly, I got to see SAFER and how closely SAFER and Lumina Alliance worked. And there are really a lot of people in this community who care. So thank you so much. So without further ado, it's not really your last day, so I can't cry today. Yeah, true. Well, today we get to express sincere appreciation and gratitude for San Luis Obispo City Manager Derek Johnson. We get to provide this proclamation, and we wish that Councilmember Marks was here to share this as well. We will all share a little bit from this proclamation, as you may or may not see. It is long. He's been here a long time, so we have a lot to share. So whereas Derek Johnson has served the city of San Luis Obispo for over 12 years, from November 7th, 2011 to April 26th this year. Derek is a man of integrity and vision and has worked tirelessly to improve the city and make it a more welcoming place for all. He has shown unwavering dedication to living the values of the Athenian oath by leaving San Luis Obispo not less, but greater, better, and more beautiful than it was handed down to us. Derek provided invaluable support and leadership in the development of the city's emergency management capabilities. The city hired its first emergency manager in 2022 and participated in a regional emergency management training through the U.S. Fire Administration and deployed the EOC in 3 activations to fire and flood in 2023. An EOC is Emergency Operations Center.
And whereas Derek was instrumental in setting the city on a path of long-term financial sustainability, resulting in a comprehensive fiscal health response plan that included making city operations more efficient, renegotiating labor agreements, decreasing the city's pension debt, and bringing in significant sources of new revenue. And whereas Derek's vision for the beautification of the community of San Luis Obispo was supported by his fostering of the growth of the city's public art program through community partnerships and additional city resources benefiting both residents and visitors with new, local, international art through both temporary and permanent murals, sculptures, and
whereas Derek was instrumental in initiating establishment of Cultural Arts District, helping to draw residents and visitors alike to the downtown area to experience the unique and rich culture that San Luis Obispo has to offer. And whereas Derek exhibited an absolute commitment and tireless resolve in his role throughout the pandemic, all while modeling strength, empathy, calmness, and true leadership to his staff in our city. And whereas Derek worked with the community, city council, and city staff to address the issues of homelessness in San Luis Obispo, working to open the 40 Prado Homeless Service Center, stand up the city's first mobile crisis unit, secure $30 million in grants for additional supportive housing, and establish the city's first homelessness response strategic plan. And
whereas no city manager in the history of the world used their lunchtime to ride their bike up the Cuesta Grade twice and return to work ready to balance budgets, build exciting projects, and overall take care of business. And whereas Derek has led countless initiatives to ensure that our streets are safe and accessible for all modes of transportation and are adorned with murals and sculptures that enrich the livability, walkability, and safety of our community. And whereas Derek's thoughtful leadership, paired with his relentless determination, has bettered our city, community, and region. He has developed an exceptional city team that values professional competency and commitment to service over self. He leaves a legacy of a well-managed city and has much to be proud of. And
whereas it is with heavy hearts and towering gratitude that we bid farewell to our esteemed city manager extraordinaire, whose passion for all things construction, housing, public art, and inclusivity has left an indelible mark on our community. Derek, you will be missed. So now, therefore, be it proclaimed on behalf of all of our citizens and employees, we hereby express our deep appreciation and gratitude to Derek Johnson for his dedicated service to the community and extended best wishes for his continued success. You're welcome.
Well, I'm going to try not to cry. As you all know, it's for me, this has been a really bittersweet decision, one that's really one that was really difficult to make. I mean, San Luis Obispo has been really the highlight of my career, and serving this community has really been the ability to really bring a lot of my skills together to really work with a team. And I really want to just emphasize that all those things I didn't do, they happened all with these amazing people and amazing people that sit on this dais, and my amazing partner, Christine Dietrich, who has been here all along the way that I've learned so much from. This community is one of the best, and I got to see that last night at the Community Academy. And I wish that was recorded, because we got to see, 30 plus people who are part of a civic academy really just express their love about this city and really come to terms with how much this city really does in a way that I think is particularly special. There are too many accomplishments to mention. I think you've done a great job doing all of that. And I think one of the great things about this community, I'd say community that extends beyond the city limits, is that, we have the ability to punch above our weight. And we punch above our weight. And I saw that last Friday and Saturday night at the Lumina Alliance event, where I got to see just a cross-section of community come together in support of a really important cause. And that is just illustrative of what this community does when it pulls together its ingenuity and its passion and the care that people have. And it's such a people-centric and people-oriented community, and it's something that I will truly miss. All of you have really left a huge mark on me and my family. I wish my family could be here. They're in lots of different places supporting their friends. I was really fortunate to have my family grow up here. My two daughters, when they came here, they were about yay big, and they will always remember fondly San Luis Obispo. I want to just say that, and the mayor touched upon this, that I'm really confident in the team. It is an amazing leadership team. They're really dedicated, competent department heads. I am very thankful for Whitney McDonald stepping in as the interim city manager just after being here just nearly 8 months and stepping into this role at a time that we're bringing forward a financial plan and many items to you that will be complicated, but I have the greatest confidence in the team to be able to do that. As the mayor mentioned, our finances are solid. We were fortunate enough back in 2020 to get the support of the community and passed Measure G20. I can't imagine where our city would be without it. We led the way, and I want to really thank, the mayor and Councilmember Pease, who served on a subcommittee and was there hand in hand with staff along the whole way, along that journey. And it is really that funding source and the confidence of the community that has really allowed us to be bold in many different ways, whether it's climate or transportation work. I'm so proud of and I'm going to cry about the team who's really led the DEI efforts. That's really a place in my heart that really I hope and I know will be a lasting commitment of the city to really bring about equity, which I think is really where we need to go as an organization and a community to really realize the values that we have for San Luis Obispo. The resolution that you read did touch upon something that is really at the center of I would say the North Star of my service, which the mayor referenced, which is the Athenian Oath. And I'll just read a portion of it because I want to close with that, because it is what I'm going to bring with me to Marin to start my career and make sure that people, as I do my elevator speech with the nearly 3,000 employees, so they get to know who I am, that this is really how I orient myself. So the Athenian Oath, and this is a portion, reads, "We will never bring disgrace on this organization, and we will fight for the ideals of service, both alone and with many. We will revere and obey the laws, and we will do our best to incite a like reverence, and will strive unceasingly to quicken the public sense of civic duty." Thus, in all ways, we will transmit our community not only, not less, but greater and more beautiful, kind, and I've added the words equitable, than it was transmitted to us. So thank you.
And I do like how the picture has an ode to your Saturday Night Fever from Lumina Alliance. Thank you so much for your awesome words. And I have to say, when I think about punch above our weight, we have a item on the consent agenda that is just that today. We'll get there in a moment. All right.
Madam Mayor, may I
Yes.
say just a couple of
can.
brief words? I just want to say, in addition to all that stuff he does, and we've all stood in awe of all of the stuff he does, Derek is also an incredible person who cares so very deeply about the people in this organization and this community. And I just want to say personally, thank you for being such a good friend, good partner, excellent venting board, safe space. I don't think I have ever fought better or felt safer in doing so with another professional partner, and I really value everything I've learned from you. So thanks.
Mayor, we also have 2 speakers on this item.
Oh, you do? Okay,
ma'am.
thank you so much.
Our first speaker is Courtney Keno, followed by Jim D'Antona.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. My name is Courtney Keno. I am a resident of the city of SLO, and I also represent Cal Poly in this space, and had to elbow a few people out of the way to be able to be the one to come and talk tonight, but couldn't not. Derek, when we've all been having these conversations about what he's meant to each of us as individuals, but also this community as a whole. And from his start in community development, I remember sitting with Ermina Kareem and him coming in with all of these super creative ideas and not knowing at the time that that would be the start of innovation and leveling up our community in ways that we never saw coming. The president's quote was better than we could have ever imagined. So looking at all of the, bridges, bike paths, art, belonging, all these different infrastructure projects and things that have happened. But when I think about what we're all going to remember about Derek Johnson, is the way that he cared so much about every individual, the way that he fought for every individual and constantly challenged all of us as individuals and as a community to think bigger and better and more inclusively. Grace, integrity, living out all of those things that he talked about in the Athenian Oath, even in disagreement, which we absolutely have had, never undermining, never doing anything but respect in those conversations, despite, big dollars at stake, big feelings at stake, all of those things. So setting the bar in a lot of ways and knowing, so many of us talk about in economic development spaces and in all these spaces about wanting to leave this, an ability for our kids and their grandkids to thrive. And you have done that, Derek. You have done so much to make this place better for generations to come. And I hope every time you come back and visit, which I hope will be so often, that you're able to drive into this community and look at the hills that you've preserved and look at the streets that you've improved and all of the lives that you've impacted. So we are so grateful for the big sacrifice that you have made to make this community the community that it is, that we're all so proud of, and are so grateful for you and who you've been to so many of us. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Council. Ms. Keno and I might need to work on our timing because she should have definitely spoke after me and left it on that. You're so much a better speaker. But Derek, congratulations on your nearly 13 years here in the city of SLO, nearly 7 years as city manager. The chamber, on behalf, Jim D'Antona, President CEO for the SLO Chamber of Commerce, after I was getting interviewed for this role nearly 6 years ago, there was only one other person they had me meet to make sure that this would be a good fit as in this role, and that was with the city manager, Derek Johnson. It was one of my first interview outside of the chamber folks, and it was really a great conversation. I understood immediately why they had that is because that great partnership that had been built. We're obviously, the entire SLO chamber is very sad at you leaving, but you've built a terrific team around you, and you leave the city in very good hands with an incredible council able to help lead, a great city manager who will step in, interim city manager. As a former community development director, your help from the chamber's perspective implementing the permitting, streamlining, has helped really move housing forward, a huge key issue for our community. Obviously, the chamber coming into this had many concerns about the financial stewardship of the city. And as you mentioned in the proclamation, it has been the great work, of building that financial stewardship with the team and really putting us on a very solid path. You look around in other municipalities and other governmental agencies, and you just don't see that strength. And again, I give you, and the chamber gives you, a ton of credit for all that work. But mostly, I appreciate that you were part of my dance team this weekend, this last weekend. We look at, first of all, just amazing. You've got to really, there were others who were going to join but didn't have the courage that Derek Johnson had to go, sure, I can do this. But it's absolutely true, and some people may be in the room. No, I'm just kidding. But the next city manager has huge shoes to fill, both municipally, dance-wise, and your disco fashion. And on behalf of all of the SLO Chamber CEOs, staff, board members of the past 13 years, we want to thank you for all you have done to build this relationship and help deliver a partnership that built a strong community. And we really wish you all the best in your new role and wish you all the luck. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Courtney, you almost made me ugly cry on YouTube. Anyway. Well, next is back to Derek. We're going to do the city manager report.
All right, well.
Your last one.
Yes, my last one. I think this has been, I don't know if I mentioned before, over 300 meetings. So, and this was a great, I think, tradition that we've added to the agenda to really provide, some pulse point information, I think, that are top of mind for the community. So I've got a short report tonight, and I'm going to start off with some of the important construction projects that are happening in the city, or maybe, All right, there we go. So I'm going to start off tonight and just give an update to the City Council on the North Truro Greenway, Neighborhood Greenway project. As you know, we've been fortunate to have a fair amount of rain this year. What that unfortunately becomes construction delays, and we're just really thankful for the patience that the community and the council have given us with respect to those delays. That work does continue. You're continuing to see a focus of work on the fence footings and the Truro underpass. It will be extremely delightful at the very end. It is a art installation that includes both fencing and accent lighting. So we've been coordinating that work, and unfortunately, what we've seen is some of the low temperatures and the rain have really delayed some of the projects. We expect the slurry sealing of the greenway this week with striping and signage to follow. If you were out today, you may have seen some of the striping underway, and the project is still on track to be complete this spring. once the underpass improvements are finished. And I hope this becomes a model for other underpasses in our community. They should serve as gateways, and this should be a model for others into the future. With regards to pavement maintenance and mobility improvements, they are continuing and slow as well. We have a significant amount of work on Monterey Street with paving to follow. We've also started activation and construction on Santa Rosa and Palm Street. Some of the work that the council authorized is one of the added alternatives. Those concrete repairs are underway, specifically with some curb cuts directly on Santa Rosa Street that will extend then northward on Palm Street all the way over past Johnson. As usual, commuters should expect to experience some travel delays and some lane shifts throughout the work zones. And more information can be found at the Slow in Motion website. You can always reach us at slowinmotion@slowcity.org, or you can reach us by phone at 805-783-7887, or our website, slowcity.org/slowinmotion. Moving next, and thank you to our sustainability team for being here tonight to accept the proclamation from the mayor. There are a lot of events that really show the work and dedication that both our community and our city have with respect to Earth Month. All these events really highlight the champions and community organizations that are leading efforts to reduce local pollution and address the climate crisis. The Office of Sustainability and Natural Resources is also partnering with the SLO County Library for an informative series with events throughout the month of April. And dates for the next 2 weeks, 2 weeks events are on the slide, or you can visit the community calendar located at www.slowcity.org/sustainable-slow for more details. Moving next, and this was highlighted last night at the graduation ceremony for our community academy, there are literally dozens of ways for you as a community member to contribute to San Luis Obispo. And we're still in the nascent stages of our volunteer program, and fortunately, April is our Volunteer Appreciation Month. And so there's some opportunities this month that I want to point out. The first one is our Community Garden Service Day on April 19th. We have Recycle Right at Farmers Market, always a hit because there's always a lot of mystery and confusion about what you can and cannot recycle. And if so, the farmers market is a great place to learn how to recycle appropriately. And then we culminate that all in a volunteer appreciation event on April 26th. And so I am really excited in the work that Kirsten is doing along with our department head, Greg Avakian, to lead this team effort. It's really excited to see this program grow. When these programs really come together, they become a source of pride and a way for people to really contribute and give back to their community. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Assistant City Manager Whitney McDonald, and she's just going to do a brief update with the council on our parking rate study efforts.
Thank you very much. Just wanted to give everyone a quick update on where we're at with the parking rate study. So of course, we are well underway with that study, which is with our consultant, Dixon Resources Unlimited. Just a quick reminder of kind of how we got here. Back on November 7th, council authorized staff to issue a request for proposals for the consultant support, and at the same time reinstated the first hour free and free Sunday parking in the parking structures. So we went through the RFP process, issued a contract in January, and as of today, we've had 4 community meetings to solicit input on parking rates, as well as a number of survey opportunities. The last community input meeting prior to your review of this work is now scheduled for May 2nd from 5 to 6:30 p.m. It will be virtual on Zoom, and a news release with a link to the Zoom meeting was published today. And the parking services website will be updated with a link to the meeting as well. So if anybody's interested in getting one more update and opportunity to participate before it's heard by council, that's a good chance. One difference between this meeting and the meetings that have been held before, by this point, we will have essentially the final results of the study, and we'll be ready to explain our recommendations and the options that the consultant has come up with for different rate packages, essentially. To date, we have had over 2,700 responses to our survey, which we have heard is the largest, most popular survey we have done. And our team is, of course, working on refining our rate scenarios for your consideration. We're currently planning to hold a special council meeting on May 14th. We will present the findings both from the community input efforts, occupancy survey results that our consultant has prepared, financial modeling scenarios, and then finally recommendations for potential rate options. We are preparing the item so that council will be able to make actual changes to the rates at that meeting if you are ready to do so. One caveat there would be if there's changes to on-street rates, that's required to be done by an ordinance, and so it just takes a little bit longer to get that done. We will be presenting an ordinance to at least remove the planned $5 increase in 2025. So no matter what, you'll see an ordinance to be introduced to make it clear that we're no longer planning to make that increase next year, which is something we discussed back in November. So wanted to let you know that's what we're planning. The one piece, just so you're aware, there's a tentative word in the May 14th date. That was to account for just where we were at with our consultant on the actual study that they've prepared. In talking with staff and the consultant actually just earlier today, we feel pretty comfortable that we'll be able to bring all of that forward on the 14th. So that's where we're at with parking, and we'll look forward to that conversation and again, that additional opportunity for public input.
So can I just clarify, so you have the consultants have a meeting on the 2nd,
Correct.
and they'll still have everything ready for us by the 7th to be able to post for the 14th meeting?
That's the idea, yes. So the 2nd is intended to inform the community about the outcomes. So
Okay.
by that point, we've already essentially settled on the scenarios that they've analyzed. Right now, we've worked through a number of different modeling results. We're trying to chew them up, make sure that everybody's comfortable with the data, the numbers that we're seeing, and we still believe that that's a goal that we can meet, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, City Manager?
Madam Mayor, members of council, I just want to echo Assistant City Manager McDonald's comments. I think, we're doing our best to try to bring this forward and package this up for the 14th. If anything changes, if we learn anything, then we'll certainly notify you and the clerk and make sure that the community knows if there's any sort of need for us to pivot, because we want to make sure that there's a complete information out there in time for a full, robust discussion, and that there's ample opportunity for the public to be able to review that information in advance, well in advance of that meeting.
Great, thank you so much. Any questions from my colleagues? No? All right, well, thank you for a great presentation. Always good to see what's happening and how to access the sustainability page as well as the slow in motion page. Have some personal questions on that. And then the engage slow volunteer. This is volunteer month, so really great that we continue to highlight that. So we'll move forward now to the time where it's public comment for items not on the agenda. If your item is on the consent agenda or the public hearing agenda, we'll get to those in a bit. So City Clerk, do we have any public comment?
Yes, we have two public comments. Simon Ingram and Reginald Corella.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Simon Ingram. I am a senior at Cal Poly. I'm a construction management major, and I've lived here for the last 4 years. First of all, thank you. I honestly was unsure about all that you've done for our community, but I want to wish you best for whatever mission you're on next, and I appreciate for everything that you've done for us. So moving forward, I wanted to just address something that I'm sure y'all have heard from the opposite side, but I doubt any student has come in and spoken our side of the noise issue. So last Saturday, let me take a step back. I'm a former president of a Greek life organization on campus. I've put a lot of time into organizing events and have worked very closely with the noise ordinance. This last Saturday, my house chose to host a car wash that full benefits were going to Big Brothers Big Sisters San Luis Obispo. In this last year, we've raised just under $15,000 for the organization. We put a lot of effort, time, volunteer hours into this community. And I think that's also something that is completely washed out of the conversation when it comes to students and the sound and the students acting like students, frankly. We have a strong positive impact on the community, whether it's volunteer hours, whether it's the community stimulus from our economic base that we bring in every year, every fall. We do have a good positive impact. But this last Saturday, we hosted a car wash. We had approved this with all of our neighbors. All proceeds were going to the organization. And about an hour through, we had a cop roll up and say they've received a noise complaint. First of all, we know all of our neighbors. We had this approved, so we knew it couldn't have been from one of our neighbors. He said music was a little too loud, and I understood, and I spoke with Lieutenant Booth for a while, and I took all of his recommendations, and we proceeded as such. He said we had a great event, and as long as we proceed in these ways, we could carry on. And I did, and about 20 minutes later, when there was no music going, another officer rolled up saying that they'd received another noise complaint. And it's frustrating to me because we had taken every step that we could. From that time, it was an hour in, we'd raised $600 for the organization. And we had to shut it down because, granted, we did follow all of the steps that we were told to follow, but because they had received a complaint and their officers are given a zero discretion policy on sound, the officer could not say, it's okay. I understand that this claim is from somebody who's just driving by, and call the cops because they don't like students having events in this neighborhood. I would like to say that action of driving around the neighborhood and calling cops and students has made me feel insecure about my privacy. There's been multiple occasions where my house has been mistaken for someone making noise, and they'll drive around and videotape me while I'm walking to and from my house. So I think people in this community who have taken this amongst themselves. Is that my time?
That is your time.
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
everybody.
Thank you so much. And if you wish to finish, you could always email too. Email council@slowcity.org.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Reginald Corella, I'm sorry.
Good evening, members. I hope you have a good evening, and we have sunshine. California native, born in San Luis Obispo, 1947, American Ohlone Indian. I'm here specifically as a representative of the Oddfellows in San Luis Obispo, located at 520 Dana Street. And I got involved, very immersed in, and with the issues involved with employees and restaurants closing and business and parking structures. We have been contemplating opening up approximately 20 spaces available to merchants and the city, and we hope to collaborate with Community Foundation up the street and also Reese. So this is going to be up a tentative on our agenda, which will be next month, and we'll be voting on that with upgrades and being able to provide that. We are looking for a donation substantially cheaper than the prevailing rates are going on right now. We're looking at probably about $10 for an 8-hour stay. So we could tentatively, based on approval of membership, opening up a total of 68 spaces and then 2 additional handicap spaces from the Oddfellows. And we want to proceed on this, and hopefully we'll advise and either work with code enforcement or the establishment that pertains that, and hopefully enter into a relationship with them. We're conveniently located, and there's a need, and this is what we do as Oddfellows. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, thank you. Sorry, just writing a note to hopefully follow up with the CDD manager on that later. She's nodding her head. Okay, so next we move forward to the consent agenda, and I'd like to ask my colleagues if there's anything, oh, sorry, 1 second. You good? Okay. Anything that these council members would like to pull from the consent agenda, or are you good? All right, we'll move forward. City Council Member Shoresman.
Is there public comment?
Sorry, moving on to public comment. I'm just moving forward, sorry. Public comment.
No, we have no speaker cards.
Okay, great, thank you. Councilmember Shoresman.
I'll move approval of the consent agenda. I mostly just wanted to point out that this is another one of those consent agendas where there's a lot of good, positive sleeper items, so to speak. Some grant funding being applied for and things of that nature. So just wanted to say thank you to staff for all the work on those items.
Thank you, Councilmember Francis.
It actually occurred to me that I might need to ask about the grant funding for Broad Street and whether or not I need to not vote on that item.
I would recommend recusal.
And can I stay in the room during the recusal, or should I?
If there's no discussion other than on consent, then you don't.
So I would like
have
to
leave.
pull
It's not recusal.
item.
You can just recuse. You
Okay,
can just
I will
recuse in
recuse
the
myself
vote.
from that.
Unless it's being pulled for discussion, and at which point you would need to step down.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, so Vice Mayor Pease.
I was just gonna, I'm ready to vote.
Okay.
And seconded.
Go ahead, Vice Mayor Pease, a second, and I'll just add my comments and my vote. Thank you so much. Can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Shoresman,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Pease,
Yes.
Councilmember Francis,
Yes, with recusal on item 6I.
Mayor Stewart.
Great, yes, and I also want to echo Councilmember Shoresman's comments for so many amazing things. As I was talking to someone today that helps me with my newsletter, I said, you have to really highlight a lot of things that are on the consent agenda this time that people may not stop and pay attention to. When we talk about punching above our weight, we have the ability to have awesome public transportation in a way that we wouldn't have if we didn't have the partnership with Cal Poly. So I just really want to thank Cal Poly for working with us, and we continue to work together past these 3 years. Also, just really appreciative of the grant funding for homelessness, and as well as just continuing the relationship for Kai Joaquin, the Home Key Project, and Motel 6 and the People's Self-Help Housing. As we continue to talk about housing and homelessness, I want people to see that this is work that we're doing right now, and I just hope that you take a look at our consent agenda and notes, or minutes. So yes, and the motion passes 4-0 with 1 absent. Thank you so much. So lastly, we have the public hearing and business item to review and accept the 2003 General Plan Annual Report. And we have Owen Good to provide the report, as well as maybe a few others, I'm not sure. No? Okay, all right, Owen Good.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Owen Good, and the item I am presenting to you today is the consideration of the 2023 General Plan Annual Report. Staff recommends for the City Council to review and accept the 2023 General Plan Annual Report as recommended by Planning Commission. The purpose of the General Plan Annual Report is to comply with the City Land Use Element Policy 11.3 and California State Law, Government Code Sections 65400 and 65700 to review implementation of general plan programs. Land Use Element 11.3 states that the city shall prepare an annual report on the status of the general plan during the first quarter of each calendar year. There are a total of 8 elements in the city's general plan. This list gives an overview of the elements and when they were adopted. In 2023, the city adopted the Climate Adaptation and Safety Element Update. Throughout 2023, staff worked to improve customer service and process improvements, such as improving review timelines, tracking department key performance indicators, and improving the new Ask Slow online information platform. Feedback received both internally and externally have been the focus of 2023 to improve the user interface of the platform. Staff also continued to coordinate with partner agencies on projects throughout the city. The Regional Housing Action Team, facilitated by the San Luis Obispo Council of Governments, worked to review the Housing and Infrastructure Regional Framework. The Prado Bridge Replacement Project is anticipated to begin construction in 2025, and the Prado Interchange is anticipated to begin construction in 2027. Planning and building activity. A total of 231 planning applications were received in 2023, which was a 10% increase from 2022. This trend is in part due to a small increase in exception requests that require director review. Additionally, of the planning applications received, 29 of those applications were for homestay permits in 2023, and the city currently has a total of 200 permitted homestays. Total building permits issued. A total of 600 building permits were issued in 2023, including permits for a net total of 364 residential units. The increase in permitting was specifically connected to an increase in residential additions and alterations, as well as commercial additions and alterations. Permitting for both categories significantly increased by 71% for residential alterations and 58% for commercial alterations. The decrease in units being permitted would be due to the fact that many of the city's specific plans, such as the Orchid Area Specific Plan and San Luis Ranch, are approaching build-out and nearing completion. This leads us into the city's regional housing needs allocation. The city's six-cycle housing element period began in January 2019, and the housing element update for the sixth cycle was adopted by council in November 2020 and certified by HCD in September 2021. The city's regional housing needs allocation for the sixth cycle is 3,354 housing units to plan for, as seen in Table 4 on page 12 of the report. For the 2023 calendar year, the city permitted 74 new housing units towards our quantified objectives. Quantified objectives were only counted towards categories that are remaining to be met, so moderate income units and below. Now I'd like to discuss pipeline projects for affordable housing. The city is well positioned to add more below market rate affordable units to our RHNA allocation in coming years that are currently at various stages of review. These units will be deed restricted for very low, low, and moderate income households. A total of 586 affordable units are projected to be developed in the city in the next few years. And here we have a list of current pipeline projects at various stages. Much of this development is a result of implementation of the housing element through various programs and policies. Since adopting the housing element in November 2020, city staff have implemented several housing element programs in alignment with the housing and homelessness major city goal. Table 6 on pages 15 through 17 of the report displays a list of discussion on progress of housing element programs in 2023. The table shown here is an abbreviated version of Table 6. I'm going to take a moment to take a sip. Homelessness solutions. Homelessness solutions highlights for 2023 included the adoption of the city's first homelessness response strategic plan and continued to monitor KPIs for the Community Action Team and Mobile Crisis Unit. Residential growth. The land use element policy related to residential growth, land use element 1.11.2, states that the city's housing supply shall grow no faster than 1% per year on average. Unit types that are exempt from growth management regulations are affordable dwelling units, new dwellings in the downtown core, and legally established accessory dwelling units. In 2023, 301 residential units were constructed in the city subject to the growth management ordinance. As of 2023, there are a total of 22,814 units in the city's housing stock subject to the growth management ordinance. This is below the 2023 threshold of 22,869 units estimated by the 2015 land use element based on land use element table 3, which is shown on page 16. Since 2015, the city has maintained an average annual growth rate of 0.98% per year, consistent with the 1% maximum average annual growth rate. Non-residential growth. In 2023, 41,363 square feet of net new non-residential floor area was added to the city. The annual growth rate for 2023 was 0.35%, and the 5-year net growth rate was 2.35%, which continues to be consistent with land use policies. Specific plan area development. In 2023, staff continued implementing and developing several specific plans. Progress in the Margarita area included continued construction of the Toscano subdivision. The largest properties in the Margarita area, the Damon Garcia properties, have yet to be developed and have an estimated residential capacity of 408 residential units. When combined with the 442 units completed or in the development process, the total comes close to the estimated capacity of 868 units for the Margarita area. Progress in the Orchid area included continued construction of the Rigetti Ranch and Pratt property and completion of the Vinifera homes. In the airport area, many large projects are currently in various stages of the development review process. A recently completed development was the commercial building located at 862 Aero Vista, and the site plan you see there is for 650 Tank Farm mixed use, which is currently under permit review. Avila Ranch saw significant progress in development last year. Phases 1 through 3 for single-family homes are under construction, while the multifamily component of Phase 3 is under review for planning entitlement. Phase 4 and 6 are pending submittal, while the Phase 5 single-family homes have been approved. The Froome Ranch specific plan area was annexed in November of last year. This specific plan is composed of a life plan community, a multifamily component, commercial component, and significant park and open space conservation. In San Luis Ranch, multiple projects are currently in process with a total of 654 residential units. Residential development in San Luis Ranch is currently under construction. Municipal code updates. In the report, staff has identified municipal code updates that we would like to share during this presentation. The first being the Downtown Flexible Density Program. This program was specifically identified in the 6th cycle housing element and satisfies program 2.15, and Policy 6.6 of the housing element. The main goals of the program are to help address the local housing demand by facilitating increased higher density residential infill development in the downtown area near employment centers, incentivizing smaller units, and diversifying the city's housing stock. The Downtown Flexible Density Program is a pilot program with the intent of adding 500 residential units to the city's downtown core. The program is set to expire on January 1st, 2029, or until 500 qualifying units are entitled or permitted under the program, whichever occurs first. At this time, no permits or entitlements have been granted for any qualifying units under the program. However, a few projects have been submitted for pre-application review with considerations of using this program. Comprehensive subdivision regulations update. The subdivision regulations update was adopted June 2023. This implemented housing element policy 6.20. This supports small lot subdivisions and flexible lot design subdivisions, as well as implements state legislation for Senate Bill 9. This update also adds standards to clarify general plan hillside development. The Clean Energy Program was adopted by City Council in July 2022, which requires new buildings to be all electric. The program was updated to include exemptions and incentives, and the program became effective in 2023 for about 4 months and was paused. After that, the city implemented more stringent energy efficiency standards. Moving on to the city's water supply. In 2023, the city's available water supply included 10,140 acre-feet of water, which was consistent with the city's current water supply need. Sorry, 10,183 acre-feet. I misspoke. Now on to the topic of transportation and circulation. Several traffic signal and intersection improvements were completed as part of the city's traffic safety program in 2023. Other transportation projects completed in 2023 include the completion of the 2022 paving project and the construction project progress made on the North Choro Neighborhood Greenway. In 2023, the fire department and police department continue to take steps to protect city residents, reduce crime, and prepare for potential dangers. The fire department continued to conduct critical safety inspections in the city in 2023, and the police department made progress in various training efforts and continues to promote neighborhood wellness and civility. Regarding conservation and open space, some highlights from last year include repair to the Miosi open space and Poly Canyon Road caused by the winter storms we saw last year. Staff anticipate seeing additional trails in 2024. The city continues to support and partner with City Farm Slow to deliver sustainable agriculture. And last year, City Farm Slow received a $200,000 grant for site access improvements and enhancements along Perfumo Creek. Parks and Recreation highlights from 2023 include youth and adult sports programming, which saw high numbers of participation with over 650 children enrolled in the YMCA Winter Basketball League and over 2,400 rostered adults for the year-round softball leagues. We also had approximately 540 students served at school sites through youth services and nearly 2,000 students enrolled in youth summer camp programs. The North Broad Street neighborhood broke ground, and the Orchid Area Parks, a 3-park system, made great progress on the design and held a public workshop to collect community feedback in April 2023. To conclude the general plan annual report, To conclude, the general plan annual report conforms with land use element policy 11.3 and state law. The general plan annual report also provides you, the City Council, with an opportunity to review implementation of general plan programs for 2023. That concludes this presentation. I provided the staff recommendation here for you again, and that is to receive and file the 2023 general plan annual report. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I always feel like after like this big update, we should be clapping or something. So much work that's involved in all of the different departments. So thank you very much. Any questions already from my colleagues? Yep. Okay. Vice Mayor Pease.
Sorry. Thank you so much. Excellent information, as always, in these. My question is, it's page 21 of the report, or 289. Yeah, maybe we overlap. So, and my question is the number of units being built versus the population. So our population, our unit growth, which we have some control over, of course, for permitting, is at that 1% average. But our population is nowhere near hitting, is far below where the same targets are in terms of anticipated number of people. So, for example, 2025 target is 23,322 units. And then the people's 51,000. I mean, we're nowhere close. We're 47,000. So I guess I'm concerned that our unit rate could limit our ability to be able to accommodate housing more people. I mean, because it's people that we are, our whole CEQA analysis is based on people. So I guess I want to see if there's both kind of explanation, thoughts why it's more aligned than it looks like to me. And then also, does this look like something that we should maybe revisit because family household sizes have changed over the years? And I see Ms. Tway stepping up as well, if you'd like to defer.
Good evening. Thank you, Timmy Tway, Director of Community Development. That's a great question and an observation we have also had. And I think for an explanation, there's a number of factors that is leading to, I think, a smaller housing unit or smaller number of people per housing unit. Some of it is just demographics. And some of it is, I think, people, as more units become available, sometimes people who are doubling up families, are moving out. And so some of it's a good thing, right? We're not less overcrowding. But a lot of it is demographics and who's living in the community and the types of households in the community. In terms of whether or not it should be looked at, I mean, that's a council question and a policy issue. I think up until this point, because we haven't reached the 1%, we're not limiting anything. So changing that right now, there's not anything that we're doing that is limiting growth or development of units. In fact, we're trying to do the opposite. And so it's not affecting how we approach planning or entitlement or building permits at this point. I think a policy question would be, if we get to the point where we're at 1%, then it's, should we keep that policy or not? But at this point, it's not affecting anything we're doing to limit growth.
And you don't anticipate that it will? I mean, we're right at that ceiling in theory.
It's a fantastic question. I truly haven't been here long enough, and I think we're in a time of a lot of growth over the past 5 years, and to see if that continues, I think will be telling, to see if we continue that path, beyond this 5-year average.
Okay, thank you.
And there are a lot of smaller units being built, so maybe we'll see some change in that too. Councilmember Schwarzman.
Yeah, my question's kind of related to that too, and actually from the same page of the report, but a little higher up, it talks about affordable dwellings restricted to low, very low, moderate. It talks about some types of dwelling units are exempt from the numbers. So we have a number of, from that previous chart, we have a number of 22,814 units in the city in 2023, and our estimated growth would have been 22,869. So we're under by, 50-ish units by that count, but there's a little asterisk underneath that says that there are quite a few units, I'm guessing, especially with the expansion of ADUs, that are all our total number of units, including those that aren't counted in the number in the chart, is 23,402. So just curious why, and those are presumably units that people are living in, so why are we not able to count some of those affordable units and ADUs towards what governs that number? I don't know who wants to answer that.
And at one point, we remember there was like partial fractions counted. Did that change?
Yeah, I'm going to ask Teresa McClish, our housing program manager, to come up and answer that. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think just trying to understand your question, and I was looking through the pages to make sure I'm on the right chart, but I'll address like how there's a agreement with the state HCD in terms of how we are able to count ADUs toward our arena numbers. So let's hit that one first. And so that's we're talking about the arena table and our below market rate units. We're able to count half of our ADUs citywide towards our below market rate numbers. So in terms of, counting between total number of units or ADUs and counting which ones qualify for below market rate units, that's one type of calculation that we're allowed to do. In terms of population and units and how we calculate our growth rate, so these are policies set in our land use element that are designed to allow us to transparently look at population growth in the areas of the city where they were so intended over time. And so I think so we have to be careful about our not counting our affordable units in terms of worrying about our growth rate in terms of population. So I'll stop right there because I'm not sure I got the second part of your question.
You answered the first part of your answer was what I was asking.
Okay.
I guess what I was getting at is the total number of units is 23,402, but it doesn't seem like we get to count all those. And so basically why not?
We're not counting our total number of units in our growth management population calculation. And that's just because we didn't want to disincentivize certain types of housing in certain locations, our affordable units or housing in our downtown areas.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Francis.
It looked like maybe Vice Mayor Pease had a question that sparked from that. Was that true?
Thank you. Actually, I'll save it for deliberation because I think we're asking some other.
Oh, yeah, I just had actually a follow-up on something that you brought up at the beginning of that discussion, if you don't mind. Thank you so much. The ADUs counting for half a unit towards our affordable units, is that regardless of the actual sales rate or rental rate of that ADU? Is it just on the assumption of the size of the unit making it affordable?
Yes, and that's based on a study that the county led a couple of years ago and evaluated rents and sales prices of ADUs, and all the cities and all the jurisdictions in the county are kind of relying on that study, and HCD allowed us to count half of our ADUs.
And so that's a blanket calculation for all ADUs?
That's correct.
Thank you so much for the clarification.
Thank you. Any public comment?
No, we have none.
Okay. Well, thank you, Vice Mayor Pease and Councilmember Shoresman. You asked my questions. I got to tag on, so I'll move forward to deliberation. Vice Mayor Pease.
Yeah, I would like us to consider adjusting that cap, because I feel like we are just falling pretty far behind on actual accommodating of population for a number of good reasons. I mean, in terms of we can't dictate what the population will be, but we can observe a pattern since the general plan was developed. And it was, it was kind of trying to have moderate growth, and we tagged it onto the number of units. And I think that's not working for us anymore. Or we just need to bump the number to reflect the reality. Maybe the average growth now is 1.4% based on average household size. And we're coming up on 2035 pretty quickly, and we're just not hitting that. I mean, we have, in theory, capacity for the rest of our, our water planning and all of that to get up to 57,000. And at this rate, we're not, our growth cap would, in theory, keep us back. So our development community hasn't gotten us there yet, but I think our collective goal is to enable more housing. I mean, that's what we're trying to do. And so, I think it would be, I don't think it has to be right away, but sometime, and maybe that was a question I should have asked staff about what would be the appropriate, if there is interest, what would be the appropriate timing or work program to revisit that?
Can I ask you, as, Community Development Director Tway said, we're not limiting at this time. We're not limiting anything at this time. So what are you hoping that would change by changing a number on a chart?
So in theory, so when I first started on council, that average number was, 0.6, right? Now it's 0.98. We're like almost there. And so, and if we have a project that is, 500 units of dream housing that we want, our general plan says that no, if we go over that 1%, we are told that we need to deny permits, or at least stall on the permits. I mean, that's I think I'm conveying that accurately. And so that's, and it is exempted for units that are, if somebody came in with a below market rate or a downtown project, that's exempt from that growth limit. But even if we wanted to do, other kinds of cool development opportunities in some of those specific plans, I'm concerned that we might slow ourselves down in a way that's not in alignment with our housing goals.
Can I ask a quick clarifying question? Sure. It's the average rate over how many years? 5. So we could potentially then approve a project with the idea that in subsequent years it would be balanced out because there'd be fewer projects then coming down the pipeline. Is that my understanding that correctly?
And it used to be just average per year, but they put it as an average over a 5-year period to kind of recognize the ups and downs of the economic cycle of construction.
I guess I'm asking that because we wouldn't then put the brakes on or slow down a project theoretically just because it went over the 1% threshold. Is that correct understanding?
We absolutely could.
We could, but we wouldn't because it would be based on calculating it out.
On the 5-year past average.
Okay.
So right now, our 5-year past average is 0.98, right? So, yeah.
Councilmember Shoresman did have her hands up, but now it's saying Councilmember Francis, so.
No, please, Shoresman, I just had that one question.
Okay, thank you.
I guess I still have questions for staff, because I was understanding that as a target 1% that, again, was a little bit flexible. And then my secondary question related to, so is that a hard and fast 1% that we would stop approving permits if we hit that 1%? And then secondarily, is the appropriate time to look at that 1% target rate when we're updating the general plan, or is it, I would think that that's when the 1% was set, and so that's when we would do it again, is during a general plan amendment, or revision.
Yes, so I would defer to Mr. Johnson if he has anything to add, but there's not a hard and fast rule that says like you must stop. It's in the general plan. This actually lives in the land use element, not the housing element, and it says that, the growth rate of the city's housing supply shall not exceed 1% per year on average, and the council shall review the rate of growth on an annual basis. So I imagine how we would, address it is if, for example, next year in 2 years, we come to you and say, all right, we're at 1.2, and then it becomes a question of what should we do about that? But there's nothing as far as I can see, and I think Derek was nodding his head looking at me, but it wouldn't be a, stop everything right now. It's more of a conversation that happens. In terms of the best time, I would say the best time is when we relook at a general plan. Again, this is in the land use element, so not the housing element, but the housing element update, because it's on this regular cycle, and we'll have to start talking about that in 2 years to hit the next cycle, would I think be the appropriate time to really talk about if that policy is serving us well, and if there's interest in changing it, and if it would impact the housing element programs, policies, and us achieving the goals in the housing element.
Thank you, City Manager.
Yeah, I think it's important to point out, maybe we can follow up with additional memo, is that the growth management, so there's the policy in which we report, and then there's an ordinance that then implements the growth management ordinance. And that ordinance doesn't include our annexation or our specific plan areas. So I don't know if if our calculation includes that. The example is the 0.98 exclusive of the specific plan areas?
These regulations apply to new residential construction.
Within.
That have been annexed or to be annexed.
But not within.
Your microphone's not on, so if you
But
were.
not within the new dwellings in the downtown core and legally established shall be exempt. So I just want to make sure how we calculate that we excluded, okay. So I think the answer to your question, I think there's a couple points I would make. One is that I think it's interesting that we chose to use population, because I think population is not a standard metric by which to measure, residential growth. It's one we've chose for purpose of water planning, et cetera. And that's just commentary. But I think the question for you is, if you wanted to amend this, we could certainly put this in a work program. And I think that and we could come back with what you've provided for and provide for an expansion. Some additional commentaries, I think that, it's just a matter of time before the state, from my perspective, is probably going to intervene on growth management ordinances, given that the current conditions. That's my, crystal ball, trying to anticipate what state legislation is coming out of Sacramento. And I know they've taken aim at growth management ordinances in the past. But nevertheless, we always want to maintain our local controls, so I think it would behoove the council to figure out what is that number. I do think that, as Councilmember Francis pointed out, you have some discretion to then figure out how do you meter out those projects when they come in. And if something comes in, as Councilmember Pease identified, you could take a project but that's on the back end, you're gonna then have to then constrain something on the back end. And so, as you know, since the growth management ordinance was adopted, we have really never, this is the first time, I think, since it's been adopted, gotten to this point. And so I think it is a good, inflection point for the council to say, is this still serving us given our major city goal and our other objectives? And it is something that staff wants to give some thought to and come back to the council with some options, and also to then think longer about what would it mean if we hit the cap and we had an opportunity that came forward. You'll recall we did exempt some projects, I believe, from our growth management ordinance. Was it both San Luis Ranch and Avila, or just San Luis Ranch? I can't remember. Was it both of them? But we went in, I think, in those development agreements because that was a concern, is how the tranche of housing that would be built with the market. And if there were other developments that came in, they wanted some surety that they wouldn't be beholden to that. So I know that's a long answer. I'm thinking real time about, some of the factors that will go into play. If council wanted to give directions and for staff to take a look at the ordinance and perhaps modify it in a way, because I do think that the ordinance by itself, and people do read the general plan annual report, is a signal to the market. And some people may misinterpret it and say, or interpret it correctly and say, I'm not going to move forward with any sort of an entitlement, knowing that I could run up against that cap and then run up against a potential policy conflict that doesn't allow me to move forward with construction.
City Attorney.
Madam Mayor and Council, I just think it's important to note that your ordinance, your zoning ordinance, Chapter 17.144, was calculated to advance compact urban growth and to discourage sprawl in expansion areas, annexation areas, and therefore that's why it exempts your downtown core, it exempts your affordable housing. It is intended to advance your general plan policies by encouraging compact urban growth and affordability in new housing production. And so, those would all be things that you would need to look at. It would certainly require environmental review to amend your general plan and your zoning ordinance. And so it's not an insignificant, it's not a wave a magic wand sort of, just bring back an ordinance taking it out. So we would definitely need to look at the growth inducing impacts, at what the environmental impacts would be there, evaluate what those consequences would be for expansion into, Greenbelt and the consistency with other general plan policies, right? Which is not to say you can't do it and not to say that you shouldn't do it, just that it's not I think the question from Councilmember Pease was, when is the appropriate time to do it? And it is a significant enough undertaking that I would think financial plan would be, we can certainly give you a more granular analysis of how your general plan policies and your zoning ordinance work together, and how we're running up against those constraints in terms of your housing production goals, and I think help you better inform a decision and direction going forward regarding that.
Thank you. Councilmember Schwarzman, did you want to finish your?
Yeah, no, thank you for all that clarity, because I had a different interpretation of what I was seeing in the numbers here, but I do appreciate, and it's helpful to hear all that, because until tonight, until your mention, I had viewed the 1% growth rate, and that the fact that everything I had heard up until tonight was that we hadn't really gotten close to it, and now we are. So I understand your question about it. I think I also remember today at agenda review, it was brought up that at the 1% growth rate by 2035, that's actually a 19% increase, if I'm remembering correctly, or maybe that was an agenda review, maybe I saw it somewhere in a packet. So it's actually a significant increase over the next 11 or so years overall, even though it's only 1% a year. And I guess my takeaway from the table and from the total number of units that we count versus the total number that we actually have is that we are creating units, places where people can live. Our estimates of population are not really accurate with number of units, and that we actually do have more units than are being counted. It's just sort of a weird way that we count. And thank you for that explanation as to why we've excluded some things to create the urban density that we've been looking for. I guess all that is to say that as of tonight, I don't really think that we need to look at the 1%, but I do appreciate that as we get closer to it, or maybe once we see what next year looks like, that we might want to build it into a work program and look at it from a larger perspective, because we also have, if we increase that number, then we have to think about other things like infrastructure and water and all the things that we have planned for at this 1% growth rate in our current general plan. And I'm worried about, jumping too quickly to change that number, and the impacts that would have on everything else.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Pease.
Thank you, and thanks for kind of the openness in the conversation and, chiming in from these different levels. I think that, having measured growth, I think what my relatively small piece is just that I think that our intent is not aligning with reality in terms of household size. Just the simple fact that our water, et cetera, is based on number of people, and that our household, the actual physical buildings, is not lining up. So, again, I tend to oversimplify what might be involved, but, and so maybe my ask of my colleagues here tonight is simpler to ask for a follow-up memo to kind of improve some of a little bit more the background of how that number was accommodated, and just, is there a number in the general plan, in the land use element, that says a household size is X, but we're actually experiencing household size of Y, and if we were to stay on track with what our earlier planners, when we adopted that plan in 2014, that they wanted a population of this and such, and our growth rate for units is going to land us at this lower spot unless we do a little correction on the growth rates for units. You know what I mean? So those environmental impacts, I think I'm saying the same things in terms of population growth, but the 1% growth cap is on the number of units. So we're getting, our curves aren't going the right way anymore. So anyway, and there's probably more to it, and so maybe a memo is the, appropriate request at this point.
I mean, I would definitely be comfortable with a memo. I want to kind of just come back to what you're saying and make sure that I'm processing it correctly, because to me, I hear what you're saying around the units, but what we're also saying at the same time is there are many smaller units that are not calculated here on purpose so that we can encourage more growth. So when you say the dream housing, if I was to picture that dream housing opportunity, I'm picturing dream housing that offers more low, very low, and extremely low income housing. I am not looking for some sort of large home somewhere. So if we were to say, yes, let's increase that 1% away from what we've already exempted, I feel like we would just get more of what we've been getting. So I'm confused by that a little bit.
So great question. And I think that is, maybe that's why this ends up being a policy thing that happens much, as part of that bigger effort. My thinking is more of, if we come up with an area of town where we're doing specific plans and 5-story units make sense, they're going to be market rate, smaller, rental, whatever, they could still, but they're not below market rate. That kind of unit that is still infill housing could get capped. So that's, and I'm a little concerned about waiting until those projects come forward, because then, then it's tied to the project itself and might have its own baggage. Sure. So if we kind of proactively lay the groundwork to be able to, maybe there's another mechanism that happens when you hit that 1% growth, then there's a 5-year catch up to, I don't know, there's, that there's some other creative way to handle it, but I just feel like we're, anyway, I've said the same thing over.
Yeah, I know. I appreciate what you're saying, and I do think, as been said a couple of times, I mean, the last time the Luce was done was 2014, and which is 10 years ago now, and I can just imagine Carlin Christensen right now, if she was sitting here, and what she would say. But I also do remember there were a couple years we did hit 1.1, but it was just based on the timing of when all different projects came about that had been approved at all different times of the timeline, I guess you could say, many different years. So I guess I would just say that, to me, if there's a timing, we would just be talking about this again in February of 2025 when we're looking at all the major city goals and the financial plan and the work plans, and where does that fit, and when is it time to redo the loose, and when is it time to get the community involved, and because there's so many different parts to your question. City Manager Johnson.
Yeah, I did have a chance to sidebar with Director Tway, and just briefly a little bit. As you know, the council has asked us to undertake a Margarita area specific plan update. We're not going to propose to address, the growth management ordinance. It's not within the scope of that work. But we did, identify that part of that work, we're going to have to do a policy consistency analysis. And so I think invariably growth build-out's going to come up in that analysis, because we're overall going to create additional capacity. And so there will be some information that will come out of that that could be a springboard for future efforts on behalf of the city.
And I do think also the point of going back to the trajectory of the state government, unless it changes greatly, I see saying growth plan or growth restrictions are not really going to be something they're supportive of, especially if we're going to get grants, and we are a pro-housing city. So if we're a pro-housing city, I would think we would want to do things that are pro-housing. So, call me crazy. All right, so that being said, I don't see any more comments from my colleagues. So just on the 2 cents, I want to just give back about the general city plan on 7A is I just really appreciate all of your work in sharing this. Owen, you got to kind of just sit here and wonder what questions will they ask us. But I really do think that seeing this in person, if people want to take a moment out of their lives, I know it's really exciting to read the general plan update, but I think when you review this, you really start to get a good understanding of what's happening in our city. And so much of what is assumed is not always based on facts. And so I just really encourage the community to take a look at this general plan annual report. We do it every single year, obviously, and really want people to have a better understanding of what's happening. Also, if they have questions similar to what Vice Mayor Pease was sharing today, and how does this work, and Councilmember Shoresman and Councilmember Francis, how does this work and how do we make change, and when do we get involved? This is a great time to look at that. So I will forward it on, and if everyone has no more questions, I'll go ahead and make a motion to review, or that we've reviewed, and that we accept the general plan annual report. Councilmember Shoresman.
I just want to thank staff again, and as I was saying earlier at agenda review, this is a really good document to just kind of keep in your back pocket to make reference to throughout the year. So thank you, and I'll second.
Thank you. Councilmember Francis, did you have a question before we move forward, or a comment? Sorry.
Just a quick clarification, because I think there was a request for a memo and then a clarification that potentially we were going to be reviewing this as part of the Margarita area specific plan. And I just wanted to clarify that I'd also be interested in the memo, as long as it wasn't adding to that workload significantly on top of the Margarita area, and just making sure that there was support for that expressed.
I think a memo is totally doable and would provide clarity about the ordinance and the general plan and regulations. So we're happy to put a memo together.
Fantastic. Excited to see that data. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Sorry, I apologize. I saw the head nodding, so I figured it was going. Thank you so much. City Clerk.
Mayor Stewart?
Yes.
Councilmember Shoresman?
Yes.
Councilmember Francis?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Pease?
Yes.
And the motion passes 4-0. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, now we move into the updates, the liaison reports and communications. And I know that all of us, well, no, say that again, sorry. Councilmember Marks and myself and Councilmember Shoresman and Vice Mayor Pease were all at the Community Academy graduation, and just so thankful for all of the people who came out, those who attended the Community Academy, the staff who put together the Community Academy. This is a big undertaking. This is something that we, as the council, asked to bring back to the community for community members in general to understand how our city works. If you wish to run for office, be more involved in advisory committee, whatever it might be, that this was a really great opportunity, and it truly was, and I look forward to many more of these academies going forward. And I also wanted to say thank you very much to the Performing Arts Center and to Ty and Trish Safranik for the amazing donation and the Performing Arts Center changes in the plaza. It was absolutely gorgeous, and I know some people here attended that. And then I attended the ribbon cutting for the SLOMA, the Museum of Art, and the artwork on the front lawn is beautiful. April Banks is an amazing artist. I hope you all take a look at it and pass it on to Councilmember Francis.
Yeah, I had a lovely time at the ribbon cutting at the SLOMA with all of you. And also, just before that, enjoyed Children's Day in the plaza with all of our community partners out there, talking about what they're doing to bring in more childcare and support for our children in our community and people with children in our community. It was just really wonderful to see them all out there.
Thank you, Councilmember Shorsman.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to attend all those things with you as well. And just wanted to mention too, if you go by SLOMA to see the Tidewalker public art piece outside, go inside and see the exhibit in there as well, and stand in the middle of the floor in the one room, and you hear the voice coming at you from the ceiling in a very cool way, where there's a audiovisual exhibit that's inside there, and very cool. Also, this last week, attended the Zone 9 meeting, talking about the Mid-High-Gara bypass is getting closer and closer every day to working on that. Also had an opportunity to attend a Cal Poly hackathon this weekend at the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, where they're working on some projects around Public Records Act requests and using AI to make that process simpler. And so cool to see some of our staff there. And then last but not least, with the Community Academy, also attended the week before, there was a mock council meeting, and that was a lot of fun. We had some of our community members sitting up here on the dais acting as council members, and a potential new prospective city attorney filling in that city attorney role. It was pretty entertaining.
That's awesome. Thank you. Well, I will end it today. I can't believe we are done at 7:18. Thank you so much to my colleagues for getting this done. And we will see everyone here on the dais, I should say, for the special closed session meeting on Tuesday, the 23rd at 2. And then we'll be back to our regular city council meeting on Tuesday, May 7th. Thank you so much. Good night.